Good afternoon, everyone. Rishi and team has actually put us all in a very difficult slot, post-lunch, immediately after lunch. And Rishi's told me, whispered me in the ear that it should be a T10, T20 sort of. Okay. 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 Good afternoon, everyone, participants and experts in the panel. Uh, so let's quickly, as I can understand, we have a very less time to discuss a very big topic. So let's quickly jump into the topic, which all of you are aware of. So to start with, as we all know, I would like to I have a thought I was discussing with a colleague of mine yesterday in my office, where the question was, the sports budget of India is almost nearly 3,500 crores, which is actually more than a few countries' economy and GDP. Still, why we lack proper infrastructure when we speak about winter sports or when we speak about water sports. So how important is infrastructure? Can we call infrastructure the backbone of sports? So let's start with that. And I would like to start from Aditya. If you can share your thoughts and then we can go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Post-lunch session. I'll try and make it short and crisp, of course. So, by infrastructure, I believe we don't only mean the stadiums that are built or the facilities that we see but it also means we build how that stadium or that facility is being used. The infra I would say, you building resources that are not so much visible, like building sports science, building physical education, everything that accumulates to building infrastructure. Like, for example, we have a budget of 3.5 thousand crores, which is not only for sports infrastructure, it is for the sports segment. And it also goes to media, hosting different events. So the entire thing is sports infrastructure, is what I believe.
Yeah, hi. I would just pick up the first line, what you said, that even after 3,500 CR budget, what is it lagging in India? I think, to keep it very short, I think standards, there are no proper standards in most of the sports. I would be biased because I represent the sector where swimming is actually promoted so we build swimming pools. While the prominent sports like football and cricket, they are very much standardized with all respect. And now speaking about putting up a construction for any kind of activity. So I think in most of the sport, I think the challenges are with lack of planning, the lack of standards in place, any kind of standards, which also gets added for many other reasons which we'll speak. But these are two prime reasons which I feel why still we are not able to achieve those kind of world-class facilities in India in most of the sports. I'm not talking about cricket, I'm not talking about badminton or football, which is now very well established in India. I think these are two main reasons what my two bits on this particular question is. Yeah.
And then your thoughts.
My thought, infrastructure, I think there has to be two aspects. One is the tangible and other is the intangible aspect. Tangible, of course, is the infra. And I think that's the foundation stone for building up of any sports discipline. And another is the intangible, where physical education, sports and education, like physical education, has to be promoted at the school level. And to build the infrastructure, I understand the government of India has allocated a few thousand crores for this infrastructure building. But corporates should also come forward in a big way, as we are now, chasing to become a 5 trillion economy. So corporate should come in, and MPs, just like they were told by the PMO's office to adopt model villages, such kinds of initiatives should come from the top, that, okay, ministers should also at the political level should come and adopt villages, schools to build those infrastructures. I think if those things are happen, children would be interested to take sports, they will understand sports, and there I think there would be some development in the sports.
Now, what you three of you said, what I believe is, do you feel the involvement of community in this infrastructure, and the involvement of community is very much important, and use whatever we have, as per the status and the data says, India has more than 100 international standard infrastructure. So, but still my personal belief is it is not used to the optimum level. And there is a sustainability factor also in that. So, do you all believe that involvement of the community and, as Arindam said, involvement of corporates and private entities, do you think there should be government should form a PPP model with the private entities to run this infrastructure and then optimally use it, and then again expand? So there are challenges. What all the challenges do you feel that in a country like, in a huge country like India, our country, where we have lack of space in urban sectors to have proper infrastructure? So what are your thoughts on this privatization and the involvement of community for development of or the use of infrastructure?
So if we talk about private coming in, let's not talk about the CSR funds for now. Let's talk about investment, and investment happens for profit. So any investment that is being made in sporting infrastructure has to get revenues. Now, if we talk about more than 100 facilities, international standard facilities that we have in India, let's also talk about the amount of usage. How many players are using it throughout the year? If you have a seating capacity of 20,000 people in one stadium, it lies empty for the entire year, maybe 1 or 2 events happening. Maybe we can have like a music concert happening in one of the stadiums, which I don't say is a wrong way to utilize it, because that is where the recovery of the investment is coming from. But what I kind of personally think is that before making any investment in infrastructure, you should always think about the return on investment per square yard. How many people are going to use it, or how much revenue is this going to generate? And then the private players will want to come in. We have to also think about alternate sources, alternate usage of the infrastructure. For example, if you have if you can have a place where, similarly, if you can organize more things in a sports premise, or if we can have different sporting ecosystem developing inside like we have JLN Stadium in Delhi. We see hundreds of athletes training there every evening, whereas there are lots of other stadiums where we don't see anybody. Not a single car is parked. If we can just uplift those and focus more on building training facilities in India, because we are a very big country, rather than spectacular facilities for hosting, more and more facilities. We already have a lot of facilities for hosting, maybe more of, and you touched upon the community part. So something where it is not so structured that a common man thinks that this is not for me. Public parks are great, but then if we talk about sports, most people will be like, oh, this is too fancy, maybe it's for athletes, it's not for us. So if we can bring about a system, you may add.
Yeah, so taking from what Aditya is saying, actually, the larger challenge today is actually all the facilities today, what we built, they're only built for something like a mega event. But if you want to involve community in that, it has to be more accessible to be them. So the whole arena, the whole sporting space has to be designed in such a way that even a common person can access, because it's not everybody's ability. Again, coming from a swimming pool perspective, it's very easy for me to explain. Sorry, I'm getting into swimming pool part, but it's a very easy. If a person who doesn't know swimming and if he wants to learn swimming, he cannot go to a jail and stadium because this is too deep. So automatically you are restricting the usage. So the community can only access a place when it is designed considering that tomorrow it is good even for the community.
Designed for the mass, you mean, right?
No, so it is flexible. It isn't that way. Like, it has to be thought in, then only it can be sustainable. Because Olympics can happen once in 100 years for a country like us, or maybe once in 50 years for a most prominent country. So you cannot build for Olympics and not take care of the masses. Because one more reason why community is important, because that only is a part of the bigger ecosystem. The larger the scale, the larger the quantity of people participating in any sport will improve the quality of sports and then the investment. So it's all a circular effect. You cannot take people out of the sport, either in form of spectator, either in form of participating, playing, seeing, everything matters. As Rishi was telling in the morning, 57% of the people in India still consume sport. There's another 43% which is untouched, which is a big opportunity for us. So this is on the infrastructure, community flexibility. I will touch upon one more topic is challenges. I think challenges again coming back, when somebody wants to really build something really good, I think government, the entire system has to support. Then only it can be sustainable. Today, if you look at most of the, I was talking to my friend over the lunch, the tax structure in India is so difficult to understand and complicated that it doesn't encourage investors to come and put in money. Today, let us accept the fact, best of the practices are available beyond India. There's no harm getting in it. We are every time sending people outside to train. Why can't India become a powerhouse to even get people to come and train here?
Yeah, I also had that similar line of question. Why are we always looking at sending athletes to be
because
trained
as simple.
internationally?
Yeah, as simple.
Why cannot athletes
No, let us
come
accept.
here and
No,
our own athletes be trained
so
here?
let us accept, while we can say that we have the biggest of stadiums, we have 100 facilities available, at least for the sports which I follow and see, there are only few on hands I can figure out. They are the only places where people can go and train. Now let me tell you, out of 3 Olympians who went to Tokyo to swim, 2 people swim in our pool and 1 person swims in Dubai. So there is no facility available today. That's the reason people go out. So we have to think. So that's all part of planning, designing, sustainability, looking long term, looking of investment, making it easier for people to come and invest by having reforms in the tax structure. So this is all a part. So everything has to play a certain amount of part to actually even sports to grow.
Your thoughts, Sachin?
My thought is, I think, government, I'll take the example of Delhi, because I know more of Delhi. In Delhi, that concept has come up lately. If I take the example of DDA, so DDA has started building up these multi-sports facilities. So it is in Dwarka, Rohini, so it is coming in. And there you can pay a user fee, and anybody who's interested in whatever discipline, they can go and play. And even the Delhi government, if you remember, a few years ago, they had started the pay and play scheme, where they had told you open up the school playgrounds. So after school hours, wherever schools they have got a proper playgrounds and other sports facilities, children from the neighboring community can come, pay and play their own sports whichever they are following. So such initiatives should be taken forward, and I think that is how even the infrastructures are made, sustainability can be ensured. So I'll take a recent example, like recently I'll talk about football because that's the game I come from. The Qatar, it happened in Qatar. So, the World Cup, men's World Cup, they had made big and beautiful stadiums. But after the World Cup, they are all lying empty. So now they are reaching out to other countries, African countries and Asian countries, to come to their country and they're ready to play, roll out the red carpet so that they can use the stadiums. So, building infrastructure incurs a huge cost, but sustainability also has to be looked
Yes.
into it.
Yeah, definitely. Building infrastructure involves a huge cost. Sustainability is the key. And I was not aware of what you said about when the Delhi government has rolled out a scheme where you can come to the schools, use the school playground and pay a minimal. So these sort of plans or schemes, proper advocacy has to be done across the country so that people are aware that it's not only for athletes, it's for everyone to use, and fitness is now being the mantra of the government. So, but there are still, what I feel, working with the government, there are still lot of challenges which are being faced in terms of acquiring the land, in terms of getting the expertise to build. And there is a proper pre-planning is also required about next, if we build a particular infrastructure, next 100 years or next 50 years, how are we going to sustain that particular, and how we are going to make the optimum utilization of the same. So now, my only question is how privatization of these present prevailing infrastructure can change the paradigm, change, well, everything can't be done by the government, let's be honest. So there's, we as citizens, we as corporates who are out there, has equal responsibility towards the country and towards, so how is the involvement of private entities can play a major role here?
So, I believe we are living in the digital age, and everything revolves around digital. For example, there's a few startups. I'll just name two, Playo and Huddle, for example. They are booking platforms. You can book any sports venue and go and play there. Pay the booking fee on the app. And it's very simple, and it's widely being used. So that is the innovation that the private sector gets for profit. Similarly, if stadiums could be leased out to private players.
Aditya, sorry to interrupt here. So I think this is one of the best practices, as you said. There are private infrastructures I have used for badminton and all. There's an app where we book. So why can't government adopt this best practices and make use of? And actually, these are good practices and takes towards sustainability. Why can't? Means why? I won't say can't. Why is this best practices not used to make the utilization of these?
So you're asking why the government can't build an app?
Yeah, well, government can use. This is one of the best practices which is giving results for bringing in ROI for any private entity who has leased out a land or built a badminton court or something like that. And they like private companies like Cult Fit and all, they have chain and big gyms, for example. They have chains of gyms which are being optimally utilized and people go there. And government also has good facilities. And if the app you can book, these slots can also be booked through app which can be developed by government. And means,
So with
don't
my
you think this practices has to be incorporated, taken seriously by the government?
So with my limited experience, I would say, because I'm sitting in front of you, one thing that comes to my mind is that usually what we see in the corporate, we see the corporates being led by really very, very seasoned professionals from the top B schools and those who are like extremely good at sales. They've worked at 5 different organizations, learned the best practices, and then they know how to drive, I would say, sales, marketing and sales. Whereas for the government, we do have we do take consultations from experts, from the Big Four, etc. But then it is not being directly driven by that team, which is the high performance, goal seeking kind of team. So I think that is the difference between my 2 cents. I'm sorry if I am like crossing that, but that is the difference between the private sector and the public sector. And that is why the PPP is usually a great model, whereas you don't give the entire control, the entire state, don't sell out the stadiums, lease it. Yeah, that's my take.
See, on privatization, I think private sectors are more commercially driven. So it may become, because it may go anti-logic to the point what I was making earlier, that the sport has to reach to the mass. The moment you try to privatize, I'm not saying we should not privatize, hold on, I'll just tell you. But I think privatization is more for the high performance athletes is what we have to focus upon. Because again, it's commercially driven, there are a lot of accolades, posts, which a corporate can benefit out of it. I think government has to still, on the grassroots level, for the mass, it has to still play an active role. So we have to make a very clear demarcation. If it's privatizations, I think there are few already spaces in the country available where they only take up the seasoned players, the high performance, where the objective is medals. So that can be privatized. The one which needs to like reach out as many people so that sports can grow, it has to be still driven by government through its policies, to whatever it's possible, it has to be still public driven. So this is my opinion on privatization or running by government.
Arindam?
Yes, definitely the role of the private sector is there, and I think it should be a equal stake. Government can provide the platform, but yes, there has to be a good private partner entity who can drive the growth. And you have to look at the very holistic manner, because as Aditya initially mentioned, that there are a few apps, but then these apps or these platforms are just catering to a certain region. If you take example Delhi, so if this app may be just working in one part of Delhi. So if you have to evolve sports, take it forward, you have to do it at a much larger scale. So again, I'll take the example of Delhi. So Delhi government had given out such a RFP, and it does it after every year. So it has thrown open all its sports facilities, and they invite coaches, players, academies, corporates to come in and run their academies or whichever sport they want, choose the school and run the academies in their respective centers. Only clause they have that you have to provide coaching to our children, the government school, children who are studying in the government schools, free coaching. Rest from the neighboring community, you can charge your fees. So I know such models should be again marketed, because I'm not sure that many people are aware of it.
Yeah, that is what my concern is. Despite of working with the ministry, I was still not aware of this sort of arrangement available. So we need to do a lot of advocacy if we are planning for something. And now, seeing the time frame we have here, a last question, and then I would also want that the participants should get involved. I would like to have 1 or 2 questions from them. We go on speaking and they post lunch, I can see everybody, I'm sorry. So just quickly, if we all experts sitting here, if we have few suggestions which we want to bring up, which would actually strengthen help in strengthening the infrastructure for sports. If we have, maybe take for instance 3 or 4 points which can actually be taken as suggestions and incorporated so that we can contribute to the development.
So I mentioned about the ROI. We need to see not just how many players are playing and how many people are motivated to play, but a couple of other things like the geography, the climate. For example, I went to Bangalore earlier this year. First time I went to Bangalore. And I went for sports and making connections. And I went to a lot of sports academies. It was summers, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I could see a stadium full of athletes playing football, cricket, and what so not. And I was wondering, in Delhi, we cannot have even one person outside playing a sport at that.
Because of the weather.
It's because of the weather. So if we can be a little more mindful of the weather conditions, in Delhi we have like 2 or 3 months that mostly sports doesn't happen because of the air quality. If we can build more indoor infrastructure here in the north, I've never read or seen any of these suggestions. It just came to my mind. And build more of outdoor facilities in places where we can run it throughout the year. That could be one of the suggestions that I would want to make.
See, on the same lines what I spoke, I think if couple of things what we need to, I mean, if there's opportunity to suggest somebody, maybe a government is, they should involve subject experts to actually plan any kind of infrastructure. Because with my day-to-day interaction with many so-called, with all due respects to engineers, I myself a civil engineer, engineers and architects, the larger challenge is we are still lagging on understanding sports infra, specifically the field of play and the supporting ecosystem of
So
the
you mean the
infrastructure.
technical thing?
Yes, so that is something, as I said, the standards are important to begin with, but also people who are going to be involved in putting up an infrastructure, they should know it properly, which is the big problem here. See, in swimming pool again, I have seen as basic error that a swimming pool is here and the changing room is close to 200 meters away. It becomes highly uncomfortable for people to walk 200 meters in a swimsuit, point one. Point two, it becomes all slippery
So
wet.
your suggestion here is more and more involvement of technical
Technical
expertise
experts,
when we...
Yeah, it has to be technical expert. Somebody who wants to design something for speed motors, martial arts, everything, there has to be an expert. It cannot be because as an engineer and architect, I was never taught how to design a swimming pool facility. This all comes with experience. So we have to look up good examples also.
your thoughts? Sorry.
No worries. So infrastructure, I think it should be a multi-pronged approach. One is, of course, the land parcel, creating the infrastructure, operating it, and maintaining it. For that, it has to be a partnership between the government, the corporates, that is the private sector, the local community, and then the sports associations. So be it the Badminton Association of India or the All India Football Federation, they should also get involved in creating and nurturing these kind of infrastructure. Then only I think, it would go in having a proper infrastructure and one can use it on a sustainable manner also.
Nice suggestions, but before I end, I would like at least one question from the audience. Yes, please.
Sorry, Ashwini ji, I don't have a question. It's just one more point I would like to add to what the esteemed panel was discussing. Just a suggestion that if this can be put up in right forums at the right places, there's acres and acres of prime real estate sitting in sports infrastructure facilities of governments in almost every major city in the country. There are stadiums and then there's a lot of land which is unutilized in prime areas. Now, how can we look at monetizing those areas? Can we create, for example, a mall over there? Can we create a sports medicine facility of international standards, which then becomes a hub for medical tourism from all over the world, probably? As you were saying, why do we go abroad? Why don't they come from here? So we will have to create this kind of infrastructure, and the real estate is there. It's all on prime property. It's just that we need to exploit it, because again, as I said earlier also, without commerce, there's no sports. There has to be commerce first.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So,
Somebody has a question.
yeah.
Till they come in, even railways have a lot of lands in the prime of areas which is unutilized.
Good evening again, and it was a very good discussion. And since we have someone from the ministry, and some founders, and of course we have people in the right, which Sir said, who can probably take this up. I just want to say a few things because we're looking at, elite athletes and infrastructure, but where are your elite athletes going to come from if they're not going to come from the grassroots? So now, I'll tell you now why I'm good at football. I'm good at football. I'm 50, I'm still number one of my department for the last 20 years. Because I'm from the Northeast. We walk 5 kilometers to school, we come back to school. Our teachers were very strict, but I had 5 football fields, sir. If I studied in St. Edmund's School, I had 5 football fields in the school. I had a swimming pool. In my school, not me. Okay, and most of the schools. So you look at some schools where they had table tennis. So that school, St. Anthony's, Don Bosco, they were actually shining, and even at national level. So what I basically here want to get is now, what is happening to the schools nowadays? Whether it's government or whether it's private, AC rooms, okay, AC buses, one basketball court where the assembly is being taken. I hope most of you have seen those schools. I was in a government school, sir, जहाँ पे at least 2 football field होते थे, cricket field होती थी, not like St. Edmunds because I studied in government and private board. So infrastructure is a very good topic, and I think when instead of talking at top level development and monetizing and all that, that's also there, sir. Everything is important. But if you want, see now, for example, cricket. Everywhere there is a cricket club, there is a cricket academy, there are infrastructures for cricket. That's why we are having a very strong bench. We didn't send our A team to Asian Games. We have the C team playing T20 right now because we have bench strength. So what we used to talk about. Where do we have the football? After Chetri, who? My question. So after Baichung Bhutia, we had only one replacement. So, sir, where is the... Ultimately, we're making these infrastructures for athletes. So my suggestion again here, why I'm putting this is, we need to push it at the physical education. We need to push it in the schools. And like, sir, you rightly said, Arunachalam, sir, that, the local community has to be involved. The schools have to be involved. The government has to be involved. And the private players now, because we have the money, like we have, corporates who can give your CSR. So I think to everybody would be wherever you can promote in schools, I think we should start there. And of course, local communities. For example, why did Europe start doing very well in tennis? After Bjorn Borg won in Sweden, then you have access to tennis courts. And the same way, if you go to, in India, every second meter, we have food. So we're very good at eating, and that's why we're all obese and unhealthy. But if you go to, if you have traveled to Argentina, to Brazil, I've been to a few of the countries. After every 5 meters, there is a football field, whether it's 5-a-side or 6-a-side. And even in the beach, you've seen people of 80 years old, they're playing sports. So I think we need to inculcate and promote sports. I think we need to, where infrastructure is important. Yep. So where is it important, sir? I don't think so, big stadiums. Once you're an international athlete, you're going to get the arena. Where do we need them, sir? In the schools, in the villages, in the grassroots. Because that is where we're going to get a base. Basic fitness. So because I took this opportunity since sir is in the government and all of you are working at good levels, so I think it's because you meet people at that level whom you can talk to. So I think we need to push this in schools especially, I feel. So that's all I need to say.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It was really a good suggestion. Before I end, few days back, I met a gentleman from one of a PSU, and he told me about a school in Jharkhand which has 14 football grounds. 14. I have never heard of that small district in Jharkhand. 14 football grounds, and it's a rule in that, it's a residential school, and it's a rule in that school that after the school hours are over, you are bound to be on the field. So that's where, when we are talking about community and school, that's where it should start from. And 14 football grounds, they are making optimum utilization of all the grounds. So I would close. And thank you very much. It was really
Thank you.
pleasure discussing with